Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Monday, March the 14th. Hope you guys had a good weekend. We're back to talk through some NBA for Monday. Got a 9-game slate, so decent amount of games. As always, guys, we're going to go game by game. We are going to talk through each one of these 9 games, kind of break down this slate quickly, give my thoughts on each game, what stands out to me from each team, taking a first look at this slate the night before on Sunday night. And then as we do go through each game, we will build out an early core. Just talk through 5 players that do specifically stand out to me at first look. Now, as always, guys, these are my first looks of the slate. Nothing is set in stone with NBA, and I'm sure most of you know that. There's going to be injury news that comes out during the day. Most likely, there's some teams on back-to-backs. We always have to watch the injury report. I do provide a lot more updated content over on Patreon, so if you do really enjoy these YouTube videos, if they help you out, you enjoy the first looks, you can get access to all of my updated content on Patreon, my full updated core plays, my favorite plays at each position. I give those out on Patreon as well. Get my rankings, my favorite 20 plays of the day ranked in order of interest. Also, you can join our Discord chat. You can get access to my Prize Picks plays. There's so much available on Patreon. You can check that out if you are interested. It is linked down below in the description. And speaking of Prize Picks, they are the sponsor of this video. So if you guys want to go check out Prize Picks, they're a player prop-based DFS site. It's very simple. You're just picking the over or the under on players' projections. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, and you can win up to 10 extra money on Prize Picks. So go check them out. Sign up and use code NOAH. They will match your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And again, if you want some of my favorite plays on Prize Picks, I do give a few out on YouTube for free. Post my YouTube video Monday through Friday, but I also give out additional plays I like for Prize Picks on Patreon. So if you want to become a Patreon member, again, get access to my Prize Picks plays along with all of my other DFS content. But yeah, guys, Monday slate, 9-gamer. Let's start off with the Clippers and Cavs game. And starting off on the Clippers side today, the Clippers, not a team I'm going to be super interested in. Tough matchup here against Cleveland. The Clippers are on a back-to-back as well. But one thing worth noting is that the minutes have become a little bit more secure for the starters, and we actually are seeing the Clippers run a fairly tight rotation as of late. Reggie Jackson played pretty big minutes on Sunday, played 40 minutes against Detroit. Now, his price tag at $8,200 pretty much puts him out of play for me, especially in this matchup. But, worth noting, Reggie Jackson's been playing big minutes. I think in this matchup against Cleveland, you're probably going to need Zubac out there for fairly good minutes. Again, $6,800, that's pretty expensive for Zubac, but I do feel pretty confident that he plays, 25 to 30 minutes at least if he can stay out of foul trouble. The one guy that really stands out, though, from the Clippers is Marcus Morris. So his minutes have become a lot more secure as of late, $5,600. That does feel a little bit too cheap for Marcus Morris if he plays, 35 minutes, which he has done in 2 of their last 3 games. And then the last game against Atlanta, he was on pace to play 35 minutes in that game, but he got ejected. He got ejected like halfway through the third quarter. He was on pace to play big minutes once again. The last 3 games, 35 minutes against Washington, 48 Draftkings points. The last game against Detroit on Sunday, 35 minutes and 43 DK points. And then when he got ejected in that Atlanta game, he had 21 DK points halfway through the third quarter. So he was kind of on pace to have a pretty decent game then as well. The matchup against Cleveland, I don't think is great by any means. Cleveland, good defensive team. They play really slow. But I think $5,600, if we expect Marcus Morris to continue to get 32, 34, 35 minutes, like I kind of like him at this price point. On DraftKings, he's fairly cheap. On Yahoo, he's pretty cheap as well. At the small forward position, he's only $18 over on Yahoo. So I definitely like Marcus Morris on both sides. I think his minutes have become a little bit more secure with Robert Covington out. So we will need to monitor this Robert Covington news. He's been out for the last few games with personal reasons. No update yet on Covington. I'm guessing he'll be out again. But definitely keep an eye on that. If Covington winds up playing, that'll be a slight bump down to Marcus Morris. But I still think his minutes would be at least secure for like the high 20s, maybe low 30s. If Covington remains out, I feel pretty confident that Morris continues to get mid to high 30s minutes. And then the rest of the Clippers, Terrence Mann, Hartenstein, Batum, I don't think any of these guys really stand out. Amir Coffey, he's been starting lately. He did play pretty big minutes on Sunday. He's played big minutes the last 2 games he started, but he really hasn't been that productive. Just 15 and 16 DraftKings points in 36 minutes. So, $3,700 is cheap for Amir Coffey if he's going to play 36 minutes, but he's not a great point-per-minute player. I have a feeling that on a 9-game slate, we'll probably have better value open up. So that's really it from the Clippers. We can talk about the other side of this game with Cleveland. So Darius Garland, you have at 9K. We're going to have to pay attention to the status of Karis LeVert. He's currently questionable. If Karis LeVert returns today, I think that takes enough interest off of Garland for me to where at 9K, he's not going to be someone I really prioritize. I think LeVert coming back would definitely bump down Garland a little bit. Now, can Garland still have a good game even if LeVert plays? Obviously, he can. But I think at 9K, not super interested in Garland today at this price point. I think Evan Mobley is 7,700 is still appealing. Without Jared Allen the last few games, we've seen Mobley's ceiling be really high. He's had a couple games over 50 fantasy points. He had a game against Miami where he put up 45 fantasy points. Last game against the Bulls was not great for Mobley, but played a ton of minutes, played 39 minutes. His minutes are going to be through the roof while Jared Allen remains out. And without Allen, you're going to get Mobley, playing all of his minutes at center. He's, really productive when he plays minutes at center. His rebounds go up. We've seen that happen the last 4 games with double-digit rebounds in 3 out of his last 4. So for 7,700, I do like Evan Mobley quite a bit today. I think he's my favorite play on Cleveland. But again, we'll have to pay attention to some injuries here. Karis LeVert questionable. Lauri Markkanen questionable as well. Last game with Lauri Markkanen out, we actually did see Kevin Love start. So that'll be interesting if Kevin Love winds up starting again. For 6,600, I know he's kind of expensive, but Kevin Love is a really good point-per-minute player, and he put up 32 DK points last game in 34 minutes. I'd assume if he starts, he plays around 30 minutes, he would be somewhat appealing today, but that would all depend on if Markkanen plays or not. Rest of Cleveland, I'm not really interested in, so let's go ahead and move on to the other side of this game, talk about Portland, or move on to the next game, talk about Portland and Atlanta. So on the Portland side, they're still going to be missing like half their team. Dame, Nurkic, Anthony Simons, Winslow, all these guys are still out. Josh Hart finally had a massive game last game. Josh Hart's role has been really good lately, but the only issue is that Portland has just been getting blown out. I mean, you look at his game log. Golden State, blowout, 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 blowout. Finally, against Washington last game, it was a close game, and Josh Hart played 36 minutes, and he went nuts. He had 72 Draftkings points, 44 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals. Now, the price tag on Josh Hart is up to 8,800, so I'm not really interested in Josh Hart today. I know he's coming off a massive game, but 8,800 is a lot to pay for Josh Hart. I don't think he's going to be a player worth rostering at 8,800. He had a massive game last game, but that literally feels like the true ceiling for Josh Hart. I would be very surprised if he puts up over 50 again. He might get 40, 45. If he does, that's solid, but 8,800, you kind of want more than that. Trenton Watford is continuing. He's continued to start, play big minutes. His price is up to 6,700 though, but he did play 38 minutes last game, and he's played pretty big minutes every game. Even in the games that have blown out, we've still seen Watford play around 30, 32 minutes. I think Atlanta, definitely could blow out Portland here, but at least worth noting that Atlanta is on a back-to-back. Maybe this game stays close. If it does, I think we get big minutes from Watford. It's just that at 6,700, his price is up. So is Brandon Williams. His price is up to 6,500. These Portland guys, they're going to play a lot of minutes if it's a close game. It's just that the price tags have all come up. Drew Eubanks is 5,600. I mean, he played a lot of minutes last game. He played 39 minutes. If you told me before the slate started that Drew Eubanks was going to play 39 minutes again, I would actually like him a good amount at 5,600. Does he play 39 minutes again? I don't know. I think he could maybe get 30, 32. I feel like 39 was kind of the true ceiling for him. But again, these guys have upside because they're getting so many minutes if it's a close game. Now, if the game blows out and they just get the crap beat out of them, which we've seen Portland, it's happened a lot with Portland, then none of these guys are probably going to do well at their salaries. But if you're playing some Atlanta guys on this slate and you want to play someone on the Portland side, hope the game stays close, I don't have an issue with that. But the rest of Portland, probably wouldn't be going to any of these guys unless you're playing for a blowout or something. Then you could maybe go to Keon Johnson or Greg Brown. But yeah, that's really it from the Blazers. Now on the other side of this game with the Hawks, really appealing matchup here for Atlanta. Portland's defense has just been really, really bad. So I think it's a great spot for Trae Young. The only thing I worry about is that obviously this game does have a lot of blowout risk, but Trae Young should be able to dominate here. I don't know who the Blazers are going to put on Trae Young, whether it's Brandon Williams or Keon Johnson, CJ Ellaby. They just don't have any great defenders. Josh Hart's their best defender, so he might guard Trae Young. Even if he does, I think that's a matchup that Trae Young can easily excel in. So definitely think Trae Young's a good pay-up option today. He torched Portland earlier this season, 85 Draftkings points in 37 minutes. I mean, Trae Young's got that kind of upside. I don't think anyone on this Portland defense can stop him. So definitely like Trae on this slate as a pay-up option. The rest of Atlanta, I think we'll have to watch the news on John Collins because this is kind of important. John Collins was a game-time decision for Sunday, did not play. He's a game-time decision for Monday's game. If John Collins does not play, that definitely gives a boost to Clint Capella and Danilo Gallinari. Clint Capella, we saw get in foul trouble on Sunday against Indiana. It was a really good matchup. He still put up 30 Draftkings points, though, even in only 22 minutes. I think it's a really good matchup for Capella today, going up against Trenton Watford and Drew Eubanks. So I think Capella could dominate here. He should be really productive in the minutes that he's on the floor. The only issue is that with John Collins, we've seen Capella's minutes not be super, super high. But in the games that Collins has missed, we've seen Capella get 30, 32 minutes. I would feel a lot better about Capella today. Expecting John Collins to be out again, I think Capella is a pretty good play at 6K. Now, if John Collins winds up playing, then I might downgrade Capella a little bit. I might get off of him, but I think at first look, taking a look at this slate the night before, if John Collins remains out, I like Clint Capella quite a bit on both sides. He's a good point per minute player. His minutes will be more secure if Collins sits, and the matchup is fantastic against Portland as well. Portland's still missing Nurkic. They don't really have any good defensive centers. So definitely like Capella here. Gallo, I think, would be in play as well if Collins is out. And the rest of Atlanta, don't see much or anything else here I'm really on. So we can move on to the next game, Denver and Philly. Not a game that I'm super interested in. It's two pretty slow-paced teams going up against each other. But, obviously the stars in this game look appealing. You got Jokic, you got Embiid, you got James Harden. Jokic here at 12-4. I think it makes for a pretty good tournament option. Anytime Jokic is on a slate, he is always going to be someone I try and pay up for. On this slate specifically, we don't have a ton of value right now, so it's kind of tough to pay up for Jokic. But if a lot of value opens up, I have no issues going to Jokic. Even in a matchup against Embiid, Jokic should be able to dominate here. Embiid, defensively this season, he has not been as good. We've seen Embiid really be really dominant on the offensive end, which has kind of hurt his defense a lot. I think Jokic could dominate here even against Embiid. I think this should be a pretty fun game to watch. I don't think these guys have actually played yet this season. I know Denver did play Philly earlier this year, but I'm pretty sure Embiid did not play in that game. So this will be the first time this season we see Embiid and Jokic go up against each other. I think Jokic definitely in play for me at 12-4. The rest of Denver, I'm not super high on. Aaron Gordon, I think is probable or he's questionable. So, maybe if Aaron Gordon sits, you could look to Will Barton at 6K. You can maybe go to Monte Morris. But when it comes to this Nuggets team, I really just try and look to Jokic. I don't really ever play anyone else unless, just a lot of injuries happen. Right now, even if Aaron Gordon sits, I don't think that's too impactful. So let's move on to the other side with Philadelphia. And when it comes to the Sixers, it is a back-to-back for the Sixers, so definitely pay attention to the injury report. I would think everyone's going to play, but, always when teams are on back-to-backs, there's a possibility that somebody rests or somebody gets ruled out. Embiid, though, at 11-8, I think it's a fine pay-up option. I think he's definitely more of a contrarian play. I think I'd rather go to Jokic on the other side of this game. Just prefer Jokic. I think the matchup for Embiid's kind of tough. Jokic defensively has definitely been solid this year. He's a tough guy to put up massive games against. We haven't really seen many centers put up huge games against Jokic this year. Obviously, Embiid is, he's a great offensive center. He could put up a big game against anybody. But I definitely worry about the back-to-back. He played 41 minutes in that overtime game against Orlando. Now he's having to face a tough matchup against Jokic. I just don't think this is the best spot for Embiid. I would rather go to Jokic on the other side of this game. I think I'd rather play like Trae Young for cheaper. SGA we're going to talk about I like quite a bit. So, yeah, not super high on Embiid. He's probably my favorite play, though, from Philly. I don't really like anyone else on this team. Harden at 11K. I'm not super interested in. He hasn't been great with Philly outside of that one game against the Knicks where he put up a massive triple-double and went for 80 Draftkings points. Other than that, Harden's just been like 58, 50, 48, 47. He's just kind of been mediocre. Obviously, Harden has upside and he can put up a big game any night, but he doesn't really stand out to me on this slate. And then Maxey, Tobias Harris, none of those guys at their price points catch my eye. So let's move on to the next game, Charlotte and OKC. This is definitely one of my kind of favorite games to target at first look. It should be a really fast-paced game, should be high-scoring. So far this season, Charlotte, they're playing at the third fastest pace in the league, and Oklahoma City's actually been playing at a pretty fast pace as well. They are 11th in pace, so two pretty fast-paced teams going up against each other. Two teams defensively that are not that great either. I think it's a really good spot for LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, and Miles Bridges, and you guys know that when Charlotte, when they keep games close, usually LaMelo, Rozier, Bridges, they're all three of those guys are going to play 30 to 35 minutes. Some nights we'll see Rozier and Bridges play close to 40 minutes. Now LaMelo, his minute ceiling hasn't been as high. Last few games he's only gotten around 30, 32 minutes, but we know LaMelo is still a really productive player, can put up a big game any night, has triple-double upside. I think as a tournament option at 8,500, I have no issues going to LaMelo today. Terry Rozier at 8,100, no issues going there either. He should play pretty big minutes here, 38 to 40 minutes if the game stays close. He's going to get more minutes than LaMelo most likely. LaMelo's a better point-per-minute player on the season. But I think, both these guys are fine options. Miles Bridges, he went nuts against OKC earlier this year, had 54 DK points in 32 minutes. I think it's a really good matchup for Miles Bridges. And again, he should play close to 40 minutes if it's a close game. At 7,800, I think Miles Bridges is a pretty solid option too. I like quite a bit on this Charlotte team. I think all those three guys look pretty solid. Obviously, I wouldn't play all three in the same lineup, but if you want to play one of those three Charlotte guys, no issues with that. PJ Washington, he should continue to start and play around 30 to 35 minutes. We've seen his minutes get pretty high some of these last few games. Against Brooklyn, he played 37. San Antonio, he played 37. Against Boston, he played 42. Last game against the Pelicans was a pretty big blowout, so he only played 24 minutes, and I think he was in foul trouble there as well. But if this game stays close, he's not in foul trouble. I think we get like 30, 35 minutes from PJ Washington. He's only 5,100. I think he's a solid option. He's definitely in play for me. And then the matchup, for Montrezl Harrell and Mason Plumlee, the matchup is really good against this Thunder team that, really gets killed on the glass. They're a bad rebounding team. They've been giving up a ton of fantasy points to centers. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of Harrell or Plumlee do well. It's always tough to predict which one of these guys is going to have the better game, which one's going to get more minutes. Lately, it's kind of been like an even split. You've seen about 17 to 20 minutes from Harrell, and then Plumlee's been playing, anywhere from like 24 to 25 minutes. If you want to go to one of the centers, I don't hate it. If I had to side with one, I'd probably go with Plumlee just because he's the starter and his minutes they seem to be a little bit more secure. But I think both are viable. Wouldn't play them in the same lineup, obviously, but one of those two, if you want to go there, that's fine. Rest of Charlotte, not really interested in, so we can move on to the other side of this game with OKC. OKC, they've been missing a lot of guys lately. It looks like Giddey, Dort, Ty Jerome, they're still out. We'll have to keep an eye on some of these other guys. Aaron Wiggins was ruled out on Sunday, so we'll have to pay attention to that. That did allow for Theo Maledon to draw a start. Definitely think Theo Maledon, if he starts again, would be a viable cheap option. Kendrick Williams, he's been out for a while. Don't really have any update on him. It's kind of weird. It's a tricky situation right now. We know Giddey and Dort are out, but like the rest of these guys, we don't really have any updates on. It seems like they've been out forever. I'm just expecting them to be out again. I think Aaron Wiggins, though, probably might play today. It seems like he was just out for, it looks like, flu-like symptoms, so just illness. It's a back-to-back. I would think he probably plays today. If he doesn't, though, we did see Theo Maledon start on Sunday. Theo Maledon played 26 minutes, put up 24 DraftKings points. He's only 3,500 today. If he winds up starting again, he will be someone that I definitely have my eye on as a value option, especially because right now there isn't a ton of standout value on the slate. We'll start off at the top though with SGA. I mean, SGA I think is a really good pay-up option here. Love the matchup against Charlotte. Charlotte plays fast. Defensively, they haven't been that great this season. Their defense has kind of been improving, but still on the year they're a pretty bad defensive team. And we've just seen SGA's role be so massive. Without Giddey, without Dort, the ball is in SGA's hands a ton. He's taking a ton of shots. He's getting a ton of assists, a ton of rebounds. He's just stuffing the stat sheet every night. I mean, you look at his game log. The one bad game he had, like over his last 7 or 8 games, was against Minnesota when they just got the crap beat out of him and he shot the ball terribly. Every other game, I mean, 59, 72, 63, 50, 50. I mean, he's been crushing, man. I think at 10-4, SGA is one of my favorite pay-up options today. I think him and Trae Young look like great pay-up options at the guard position. Obviously, Jokic you could go to as well. But I really like SGA here in what should be a pretty fast-paced game against Charlotte and in what should be a game that stays close as well. I think SGA is a really good pay-up option. I think Darius Bazley at 5,300 looks pretty appealing as well. He's coming off a big game Sunday against Memphis where he put up 50 DraftKings points in 39 minutes. Now, Darius Bazley is someone that I really haven't been on much this season. I haven't played him a ton at all. But I think on this slate specifically, with how things kind of shake out right now, as a first look option, I'm fine going to Darius Bazley at 5,300. His minutes have been very secure lately, 35 and 39 minutes the last 2 games. As long as he's not in foul trouble, I think he's going to play big minutes. I mean, he's their second guy on offense right now behind SGA. Like, they don't really have any other great offensive players. I mean, Isaiah Roby, Poku, Trey Mann. I mean, Trey Mann's going to shoot the ball a lot, but he's been really inefficient as a shooter this season. If Aaron Wiggins is out, like, that would make me feel even better about Bazley. I think Bazley in a good matchup against Charlotte, and what should be a fast-paced game, coming off a big game, getting big minutes right now. I think 5,300 is pretty cheap for him if he continues to play, mid to high 30s minutes like he has been. And on Yahoo, I definitely like Bazley over there. I think him and SGA look pretty good. Bazley's $18 at power forward, SGA $46 at point guard. Like, I think if I can fit these guys on Yahoo, I definitely want to be looking at some of these Thunder guys. And the Thunder, they're normally a team I don't really like to jam in multiple Thunder players, but kind of with how this slate's shaken out, given the matchup against Charlotte, given what should be a really good game environment, especially if all these questionable guys are out again, there's going to be a good amount of plays I like from OKC today. I think Bazley and SGA, the two that really stand out. But even like Trey Mann, I don't hate just because he's going to shoot the ball a ton and should play good minutes. If Theo Maledon starts again, I'd be interested in him for value. The rest of OKC, probably not going to go there. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Minnesota and San Antonio. So Minnesota today, I don't see too much I love here. Karl-Anthony Towns is a pay-up option. I mean, he's fine, but I would rather go to Trae Young. I'd rather go to SGA, Jokic. There's just other guys I'd rather be spending up for on the slate. D'Angelo Russell at 7,800 is a mid-range guard option. Again, fine, but Anthony Edwards is expected to play. He's probable, so whenever the big three for Minnesota, they're all healthy. None of them really stand out as, head and shoulders above the rest. You can always play one of these three guys. Russell, Edwards, Towns, all have upside. One of them might put up a big game here. Good luck guessing which one it's going to be. But they're playable options. The rest of Minnesota, not super interested in like Beverly or McDaniels or Beasley. Jarrett Vanderbilt's out again, so McDaniels should start. I don't think he really stands out, though, at 4,900, almost 5K. Malik Beasley played really well last game. I've been getting big minutes. He's been getting big minutes the last few games. Or I thought he played well last game, but he's been getting the minutes, I should say. 30 minutes in 3 straight games now. Probably would only go there like if Beverly sits. I think Beverly is questionable once again. So if Beverly sits, that would definitely make me feel better about Malik Beasley. I'd assume he would start. But yeah, there's just not much for Minnesota. Even in a good matchup against San Antonio, I think the price tags on all these guys make them just like secondary options for me. I don't know if there's any priority plays coming from the Timberwolves today. And then on the other side with San Antonio, we kind of know the deal with San Antonio. DeJounte Murray's going to dominate the usage on this team. He's obviously got a ton of upside. Matchup against Minnesota, I don't hate, especially like if Patrick Beverley gets ruled out. I think that just makes it look even better. Minnesota defensively this year, though, they've not been super great, and they've been playing at a really fast pace as well. On the season, Minnesota is actually second in pace, and San Antonio is fourth in pace. So you got 2 top 5 teams in pace going up against each other. This is another game kind of similar to Charlotte OKC. This should be a really fast-paced, high-scoring game. We know DeJounte Murray can stuff the stat sheet, can do everything, so he should really thrive in these fast-paced games where he can get points, he can get rebounds, he can get assists. There's just going to be a lot of possessions. Definitely think he's a good pay-up option, right up there with Trey and SGA. Rest of San Antonio, like Jakob Poeltl, scary matchup going up against Cat. Definitely worry about foul trouble here, but Poeltl's been a productive player when he's gotten minutes. His minutes have been pretty high in the games he's been able to stay out of foul trouble. But again, just a secondary option for me. No one else on San Antonio really stands out, so I think we can go ahead and talk about the next game on the slate, Washington and Golden State. And looking at Washington today, tough team to get excited about here. A lot of blowout risk in this game going up against the Warriors. Warriors are getting Draymond back today, and obviously when Draymond's healthy, this Warriors team is just so much better. So I think this game does have a little bit of blowout risk. If you want to go to Kuzma, I don't hate it. Kuzma's role has been really good. He's been playing big minutes, but just at 8,700, he doesn't really stand out to me. Porzingis has been on a minutes limit and probably will be limited again. They're probably going to limit him to around 25, 28 minutes. He's been really productive with the Wizards in the 3 games he's played, but until he gets off this minutes restriction, he's going to be a tough guy to roster until the minutes restriction is gone. And the rest of Washington, KCP, Ish Smith, Daniel Gafford, I just never play these guys. I just don't think the upside is really there. And on this slate, I don't think I'm really going to be going to many Wizards. Then on the other side of this game with Golden State, you got Steph coming in at 10K. I don't think Steph really stands out on this slate, at least not to me. I'd rather go to SGA, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. Steph always offers big-time upside, but we see the floor is just so low on Steph. Last game against Milwaukee, really struggled. Only had 29 DK points. Had a pretty good game against Denver, though, 55 DK points. Steph can give you 60, 65 any night, but he can also really disappoint and put up 30, 35. Steph he's a risky tournament option like he is most nights. I don't think it's 10K he really stands out. Klay Thompson's coming off a huge game against Milwaukee where he went for 60 Draftkings points in 34 minutes. The minutes restriction's pretty much gone for Klay at this point. If it's a close game, Klay's going to play 33, 34 minutes. But at 7,800, that price tag's just too high for me. Don't really have much interest in Klay or Wiggins. Draymond's expected to be on a minutes limit, so I'm not super high on him. Not really interested in him. Jordan Poole did start last game, but I would guess with Draymond back that Jordan Poole probably goes back to the bench, and the starting lineup will be Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Draymond, and then Looney. So I'm guessing Poole goes back to the bench, probably doesn't play as many minutes. Poole has been playing really well lately, but going back to the bench at 6,500, he's not someone I'm really interested in today. There's just not much from Golden State. I think with Draymond back now, Kuminga probably loses a few minutes. It's just not much here, so don't see too much I like on Golden State. I think we can go ahead and move on to the next few games. We got a lot of late night games today. A couple more 10 o'clock games, Chicago and Sacramento. So looking at Chicago today, Zach LaVine is questionable, so that'll be something to monitor. We did see Alex Caruso return last game. Alex Caruso played pretty limited minutes, only played 29 minutes. Was pretty productive, though. I would definitely think if Zach LaVine's out again, I actually would like Caruso as a value play. Caruso's been productive this year with the Bulls. He played 29 minutes in his first game back. They said they were going to limit him to 24, 30 minutes, and he kind of got the upper end of his minutes restriction. I'm guessing Caruso would play 30, 32 minutes today if LaVine sits. So definitely would like Caruso at 4,200 if LaVine's out. If LaVine plays, there's not much that stands out here, but I definitely think, DeRozan and Vooch, if LaVine's out, I would like them quite a bit because it's a really good matchup against Sacramento. We've seen DeRozan and Vooch, their upsides just be a lot higher whenever LaVine's out, just because that's one less player that can take usage away from them. The price tag on Vooch I think really stands out, only 8,500. Again, I would like this price, or I would like this like Vooch quite a bit if LaVine's out. Again, if LaVine plays, I'm not looking to too much here, but I think if LaVine sits, DeRozan and Vooch will be appealing, and I think Caruso as a value play would look pretty solid as well. That's probably it though from Chicago, and then on the Sacramento side, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, they're going to get big minutes here if it's a close game. Should get monster usage as well. We've seen De'Aaron Fox the last 2 games without Sabonis be really, really good. 57 and 70 Draftkings points, 37 and 41 minutes played for De'Aaron Fox. Now that Sabonis is coming back, though, I don't really have much interest in Fox at this price point. He's just priced up high enough to where I'd rather go to Trae Young, SGA, those other guys we've talked about. Sabonis at 9-2, I kind of like the matchup here for him against Vooch. Vooch has never been a great defender. I know the Bulls have allowed a lot of points in the paint this year, which is where Sabonis does a lot of his damage. He's really good at getting putbacks. He can dominate on the O glass. I think it's a really good matchup for Sabonis. 9,200. Does he stand out at this price point? I don't think so, but I would have him in my tournament player pool if I was playing multiple lineups. He's probably my favorite play from Sacramento if I had to play anyone on this team. Rest of the Kings I'm not really interested in. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Milwaukee and Utah. This is a game that should be pretty fun to watch for DFS purposes, though. This might be one that I don't, get too much exposure to. On the Milwaukee side, I think Giannis at 12-2 is always a viable pay-up option. Don't love the matchup against Utah. Utah can, they can put Gobert out there to do his best to slow down Giannis. Obviously, Gobert is really good at, clogging up the paint, which is where Giannis gets a lot of his points. I don't think this matchup sets up super well for Giannis, but he can put up a huge game any night. I think on this slate, though, there's other guys I'd rather go to. The rest of Milwaukee, I'm not super interested in. Just Middleton and Drew, I really never play when Giannis is healthy. Brook Lopez is actually expected to return today. It's been a while since Brook Lopez has played. He basically hasn't played since the beginning of the season. So with Brook Lopez back, that definitely hurts Bobby Portis a little bit. I don't know how many minutes Brook Lopez is really going to play. I'd assume he's going to be on a pretty strict minutes limit. So I don't think Brook Lopez is really going to be playable, but worth noting that he is expected to make his return today after being out for a while. But yeah, Milwaukee for me, it's Giannis, and that's probably it from the Bucks. And then on the other side with Utah, matchup here against Milwaukee, I don't hate. Milwaukee's defense, last 10 games, 15 games, their defense has definitely fallen off a little bit. Obviously, Milwaukee does play really fast as well. Donovan Mitchell can put up a big game any night. I think this matchup sets up pretty well for him just because Milwaukee does give up a lot of threes, which is where Donovan Mitchell can do a lot of damage. He probably will be guarded by Drew, but Donovan Mitchell has upside every night. Again, on this slate, does he stand out as a top option? Don't think so, but he's probably my favorite play from Utah if I had to play anyone on this team. Rudy Gobert is questionable, so keep an eye on this. If he winds up playing, he's a fine option. Don't think he really stands out, though, but if Gobert gets ruled out, then we can look to Hassan Whiteside. We saw Hassan Whiteside start last game with Gobert out. Whiteside crushed. He played 35 minutes, had 48 DraftKings points. We know Whiteside's a great point per minute player. Don't love this matchup for him against Milwaukee. I think there's definitely some foul trouble risk here. He could be, Giannis driving it at the basket, picking up fouls on Whiteside. That could definitely be an issue. I feel like they would pick on Whiteside on the defensive end too. But Whiteside's a great point per minute player, and he would probably get 30, 35 minutes if Gobert sits. So I would love Whiteside today as a value option. Don't think the matchup's as good as it was last game against Sacramento, but still Whiteside has big time upside anytime he's in the starting lineup. And at 5,400, he would just be way too cheap. He would definitely, that would be my favorite play from Utah. If Gobert gets ruled out, my favorite play from Utah is by far Whiteside. But if Gobert plays, I think Donovan Mitchell's fine. Gobert himself is viable. And that's probably it from the Jazz today. So let's move on to the last game of the night, the Lakers and the Raptors. So starting off on the Raptors side, pretty good matchup here going up against the Lakers, who have just been terrible defensively. Lakers play pretty fast as well. We will need to monitor the status of Fred VanVleet. This is a pretty important injury. If Fred VanVleet is out, that gives a boost to Pascal Siakam, Scottie Barnes, Gary Trent. I think Siakam at 9,100 looks really appealing. Love this matchup for him going up against probably LeBron. LeBron's a good defender, but we've just seen the Lakers just, on the glass, they don't rebound well. They don't put in much effort on the defensive end. We saw what DeAndre Ayton did to them on Sunday. This is a team that, a guy like Siakam, he could just feast against the Lakers. So I definitely think at 9,100, Siakam is a pretty appealing play here, and I would like him even more if VanVleet gets ruled out. Now, Scotty Barnes, he's been playing really, really well, but 8K for Scotty Barnes, like, I think this is a price tag I'm fine just shying away from him at 8K. Maybe if VanVleet gets ruled out, you could maybe go to Scotty Barnes, but that price tag is really high. I would just rather get to Siakam. Gary Trent, I mean, this dude is a literal coin flip. He's either putting up 55 or he's putting up 20. I mean, there's no in between with Gary Trent. You never know how this dude's going to play. He either shoots the ball really well like he did against Phoenix, or he's going to shoot the ball god-awful like he did last game against Denver. He's a literal wild card, but there's obviously more usage available for him if VanVleet gets ruled out. The matchup's really good against the Lakers. So I think if VanVleet sits, I would like Gary Trent as a tournament option. And then the rest of Toronto, like we saw Precious Achiuwa start last game. He played 20 minutes, though. I don't really have much interest in Achiuwa, even if he starts again, just because I think the upside's not really there. Armani Brooks also started last game, but he didn't really do much, just 17 DraftKings points in 22 minutes. Maybe if he starts again at 3,400, he'd be viable. But I think all this, these value guys are all going to depend on if VanVleet plays or not. If VanVleet plays, he'll be back in the starting lineup and he'll take minutes from all those secondary guys. We did see Chris Boucher play really well off the bench last game. 30 minutes, 49 DraftKings points. Probably would only go there if VanVleet's out, just because I think if VanVleet plays, that's he's just going to take minutes away from all these guys. But if VanVleet remains out, you probably get mid to high 20s minutes from Boucher, and we know Boucher is a really good point per minute player. But that's all. This is all going to depend on if VanVleet plays or not. Right now, Siakam is my favorite player from Toronto, and then if VanVleet plays, you maybe could go to him at 7,800. That price tag does feel a little bit too low. Rest of Toronto, not super high on unless we get some news here that VanVleet's out. And then on the other side with the Lakers, so Lakers are on a back-to-back today. They got blown out by Phoenix on Sunday. I'm expecting everyone to play here, especially since none of the starters really played their full minutes. LeBron at 12K, I don't love this matchup against Toronto. We've seen Toronto do a really good job of kind of limiting stars. Nick Nurse does a really good job of just trapping these guys, just putting all the defense, all the defensive focus on one player, and I think that's what the Lakers are going to do. They're going to put not the Lakers, but the Raptors. The Raptors are going to just put all their defensive focus on LeBron. LeBron can put up a huge game any night. He's got massive upside, but on this slate specifically, I would probably rather go to Trey, DeJounte, SGA, Jokic, those other guys that we've talked about. The rest of the Lakers, I just don't like much here. Westbrook's been terrible. Malik Monk, I think, is too expensive now, 6,400. Carmelo's fine, but 5,600, he feels a little bit too expensive. Dwight Howard did start the second half in place of Stanley Johnson on Sunday, so, do they start Dwight Howard today? I guess they could, but I doubt that happens, so they're just not much from the Lakers. LeBron's in play. He's in play every slate. But outside of LeBron, I'm not looking at too much else on this Lakers team. So that's really it for these 5 games. I totally forgot to put in our 5th core play. I don't know why I forgot to do that. So the 5th core play today was supposed to be Theo Maledon. I was going to put in Theo Maledon as a first look play. I totally forgot to do that earlier. My fault, guys. We kind of talked about Theo Maledon as a value option. This is all assuming that Aaron Wiggins is out again. But I totally forgot to put him in when I was making the core. Sometimes that happens. But yeah, we're going to plug in Theo Maledon as our 5th guy as a value option, assuming Aaron Wiggins is out. Again, if Aaron Wiggins plays, I'll have to make some changes. I always make changes to the core plays. My full updated final core plays, those are posted on Patreon. You can obviously check those out. If you are interested, link down below in the description. Get access to all of my updated DFS content. Get my PrizePicks plays as well. PrizePicks, again, they're the sponsor of this video, so if you want to go check out PrizePicks, you can sign up over there and use code NOAH. They'll match your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And again, if you want my PrizePicks plays, you want all my other Patreon content, you can check it out. Link down below in the description. Get access to all that along with all the stuff I provide on PrizePicks. And I will be making my PrizePicks video for Monday. I'll probably get that up around 11 or 12 Eastern on Monday morning. So if you do play on PrizePicks already, check the YouTube channel Monday morning, 11, 12 Eastern. I'll have my PrizePicks video up talking through a couple of my favorite plays for today's slate. Hopefully, we can win some money on PrizePicks for Monday. But good luck tonight, guys. Thanks as always for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope the video helped. We will see you in the next one. Peace.